I think it's worth it. Glad to be here.
Meanwhile, Heike's furniture has arrived at her new home after being driven by lorry right across Europe from Bavaria and ferried over from Penzance. But getting straight could take her a long time.
Oh, man.
How's it all going? You seem to be slightly overwhelmed by boxes.
Yes. They're up to the ceiling downstairs.
Every time Heike makes a start, she gets another call. Now, there's an emergency with a cow.
When we took her out the field,
Yeah?
we brought up the field. She was grabbing at any grass and stuff like that.
She wasn't.
She was.
She was?
Yeah.
Would you be able to fix her head so I can actually stick the thermometer into her bottom? Got the temperature. Got an infection, but it's difficult to say what from. I think that calls for an antibiotic. It's like getting porridge in.
Heike doesn't seem in the least daunted by the huge amount to do or the challenges ahead.
Are you happy to be here?
Yes, absolutely. I don't want to go anywhere else. This is the perfect thing, you know, for a country person, country dude. I think it's going to be great, especially in summer, with the nice weather. I was told, actually, that it would be like the Caribbean in summer. You know better than I.
It can be like that.
It can.
If the sun comes out.
Whatever do you mean?
Well, it does sometimes rain here.
Okay, a little bit of rain is not too bad.
Christmas comes to Scilly. But for some of the islanders, it's not going to be an easy time. Back in the summer, one of the great characters on St. Martin's, Kenny Goddard, died after a long illness. The entire island turned out for his funeral. For his widow, Lynn, the weeks that followed were helped by the instinctive compassion of the islanders. Donald and Margaret have been keeping a careful eye on her.
Life here is holistic. It's complete, it's rounded, and the whole community is involved in it. So whether it be a death, as it was here when Linny lost her beloved Kenny, if it was a baptism or a wedding, the whole community is part of it.
I think also because we are surrounded by sea and each island is surrounded by sea, then we have to be self-reliant and people have to rely on one another, because the tide and the weather really shapes our lives. Then I think that's one reason why people are there for one another.
But they know that it will be particularly hard for Lynn to get through her first Christmas for many years without her husband.
There isn't an easy way, really, is there?
No.
None of us could come anywhere near replacing Kenny's love for you, but we do all love you. And
oh yeah, well I must admit, I mean the support of the island, and not just this island, it's been the whole island's community.
Yes. All the island.
I'm
the island
blessed.
and its people.
Yeah, I'm really blessed actually with all the people, and wonderful place to live, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
You are surrounded by a lot of love, aren't you?
Well, that's right, yeah.
The communities of these 5 inhabited islands are really in something of a time warp, but it's a good time warp. It's as most English villages would have been 100 years ago, when they were still small enough to know one another and their lives to be shared.
And the joyful news we will share with good people everywhere.
Over on St. Agnes, Sam Hicks is taking in his first Christmas on the island of his birth with Laura and their young daughter Isla. Here too, the entire population has turned out for the carol service, although it has to be quite a modest celebration. There are only 4 primary school children on St Agnes, so the traditional Christmas story has had to be slightly adapted. If all goes according to plan, it won't be too long before the tiny island school gets another pupil. In his mainland parish of Mullion and the surrounding villages, Father Guy is working round the clock in the final days running up to Christmas with a seemingly endless round of services, goodbyes, and last-minute worries over the move to Scilly.
Come to sing carol number 6. It's Away in a Manger.
At the vicarage, it's turning out to be an unusual Christmas for Kate and the girls. Much of the furniture's already packed up, ready for the move, and they've abandoned any idea of a tree or decorations. Their priority now is getting through the next few days.
We've said a lot of the goodbyes, which was very difficult. Another one tonight, but we've said goodbye to playgroup, goodbye to school, lots of tears. But now that the house is emptying, it feels not quite so much like home.
Will Christmas morning be your last service here?
That will be our last service here.
Will that be difficult?
Very.
Christmas morning arrives dank and grey. There's a huge turnout for Father Guy's last service, including many people who rarely go to church. Much to everyone's amazement, even Father Guy's pub chum Lively turns up. Apart from the occasional funeral, Lively's never been seen here before.
Lively's here.
He's not.
He is.
Is he?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good morning. Good morning. And a happy Christmas to you all. It's particularly good to welcome my successor here this morning. It's wonderful to see you, Lively. As you know, I'm about to leave you. So what I want to do today is give you something and hopefully remind you of my affection for you all and my love for you all. I won't say any more because I'm going to go into floods of tears. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you this Christmas tide and forevermore. Amen. Bye, Kathy. Happy Christmas, John.
The family have bought presents and mementos for every member of the congregation.
Thank you.
It's your there.
Thank you, I will.
And you're always welcome back here, you know.
Take care now. Happy Christmas, Doreen. Okay.
See you soon.
Yeah. Take care. See you soon. Yeah?
Look after yourself.
Will do. Will do.
A few days later, and once again storm force winds are lashing Scilly. In winter, the island's only supply ship is an old cargo boat called the Green Maritha, which brings in everything the islanders need, including food. Now, even she can't sail. But the helicopters are still flying, just. Normally, the pilots don't like being airborne after dark, but because they fear the airport could be shut down for days, tonight they make an exception. An exhausted Father Guy Scott and family, plus 2 slightly bewildered guinea pigs, have at last arrived on the Isles of Scilly.
You made it.
We made it.
We weren't sure at one stage whether you're going to make it today.
Right, did they say anything? I assume it was about the wind and the low cloud.
And also terrible fog and mist.
Visibility on the lizard was very poor.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're here.
We're here.
The start of your new life.
Absolutely, thank you.
You're okay. What have we got here? This is
Two
the
guinea
Two
pigs.
guinea pigs.
Hopefully survived.
Where are they, Alice?
They're one's at the back.
Are they frightened?
Yeah, I think so.
They're anxious to get into the warm and their new home, the chaplaincy. They've only bought what they can carry. The rest of their belongings and furniture will arrive when it becomes safe for the overnight cargo boat to sail from Penzance. Church warden Fiona is there to greet them.
Good to see you.
Welcome, Kate. Thank you.
Because of the bad weather, supplies in the food shop on St Mary's have been running low. Kate was worried they might be going short for a few days.
And it's got food. It's got food in it. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's got food in it, and you'll find some more food hiding in the kitchen.
Oh, thank you,
Thank
Fiona.
you, that's wonderful.
Splendid.
A jug of ale.
A jug of ale.
Oh, really? Cool. What a welcome.
Might have a drop of that.
In a sense, the arduous journey from the mainland is the easy bit for Father Guy. Ahead lies an unfamiliar new life in the company of a proud and self-sufficient community, suspicious of strangers. It'll be some time yet before he'll know if he's passed the test. In the next programme, the islands come alive for what is traditionally the biggest party in the calendar to herald in the new year. An old friend of Silly, WPC Nikki Green, emerges in a slightly unusual uniform.
You look fantastic.
I don't feel it. I think I need a few more of these to have a bit Dutch courage.
The island's two newest arrivals come face to face.
Come in.
Wow, this is a lovely place. I really want to be the vicar.
And Father Guy has an attack of last-minute nerves as, at last, he prepares to take up his new post.
So what's going through your mind this morning, Guy?
Yeah, all sorts of emotions. Daunted by the prospect, becoming the chaplain to the Isles. Bit nervous. I, Guy Charles Scott, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
In his old parish of Mullion on the Cornish mainland, Father Guy's been given a huge send-off by the villagers. Now he has to face the reality of his new life on Scilly and conquer his nerves for the big ceremony to install him officially in his new post.
So what's going through your mind this morning, Guy?
Yeah, all sorts of emotions. Daunted by the prospect, becoming the chaplain to the Isles. Bit nervous.
Work gets underway on the first house to be built on St Agnes for over 20 years. For young Sam Hicks and his wife Laura, getting all the building supplies over to the island could be a bit of a nightmare.
It's all a big guessing game. We haven't got any experience in building a house before. A lot of it depends on the weather as well, which doesn't help.
And the slightly eccentric new German vet gets straight down to work.
It's like getting porridge in.
But will Heike really settle into island life in the long term?
Are you happy to be here?
Yes, absolutely. I don't want to go anywhere else. This is the perfect thing, you know, for a country person, country dude.
It's late December on the Isles of Scilly. And as always, the islanders are totally at the mercy of the weather. For weeks, relentless winter storms have lashed the islands and caused havoc to daily life. Up at their new home at the chaplaincy, Father Guy and the family have a little time to settle in and prepare the house before Guy's official installation in his new post. Until then, he'll be keeping a very low profile. Through a quirk of history, Their Georgian house is one of the biggest on the islands. There are 5 bedrooms to decorate.
We're trying to do the 2 girls' rooms before furniture arrives. But because of the bad weather, the boats haven't been running lately, so I don't know quite whether it will arrive Wednesday.
So are you excited about moving in here? It's rather good, isn't it?
Yes. I keep have to reminding myself.
What, that you're on the line?
Where am I? I'm on the other series. The removal van's here.
Some of the furniture, carried over on an earlier boat, is being brought up from storage in the harbour.
It's quite a climb for you, really, isn't it? It's a bit of a pain.
At least there's now somewhere for them to sit. Meanwhile, up at the airport, the other newcomer to Scilly is already hard at work. To the huge relief of island farmers and animal owners, Dr. Heike Dawn has thrown herself into life as the new vet. This morning, she's tranquilizing a particularly nervous passenger, Lottie, who's on her way to the mainland.
Just sedate her a little. Okay. If you just hold her head, go to the front.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. That's it. Give it a good rub.
Thanks very much.
She should be able to walk. I don't think that you have to actually carry her. She's such a cutie.
The last thing Islander Susie Nichols wants on what looks like being a very bumpy ride to Penzance is a panicky Lottie going berserk. Later, Heike starts to explore the little town on St. Mary's.
Thank you. Lovely.
It's a slightly different way of life here to her previous home in the wilds of the Bavarian forest, so it's taking time for her to get her bearings.
I need a small notebook with the ABC on the side.
A dress book. We haven't got dress books. You could try Bordeaux's just up
All
the
right,
road.
okay.
Later, Heike bumps into Father Guy, who slipped out of the chaplaincy to do a bit of shopping himself.
And where are you living? Old Town?
Old Town, the vet's house.
Smaller than you had before?
A little bit smaller, maybe.
Father Guy invites her back to meet the family.
This is the chaplaincy.
Actually, really, would you like to change and become the vet and give me this? I'm going to be the vicar.
Over on the little island of St. Agnes, population 67, work on Sam Hicks's new cottage has come to a grinding halt. Everything they need has to be brought over by boat, and although some building supplies have got through, nothing more can happen until the timber frame sections arrive. Sam's using the time to learn as much as he can about his new job. Not as easy as it looks. As well as managing the dairy herd, in summer, holidaymakers can stay on the farm. And the plan is that in time, Sam and Laura will take over the business from Sam's parents, Tim and Sue. It's important the new house is up by Easter.
Before it's habitable, we've got to get the outside rendered, windows and doors in.
Yeah.
Water and electricity, really.
So that will take us all of February and March.
Yeah, I would say so.
And now our first visitors come to take over the chalet.
In Easter, which is something like
7th of April, I think.
7th of April. So it's going to be tight, very tight.
Tim, this sounds like a sort of logistical nightmare in a way, doing this house.
Oh yeah, we're going to be tearing our hair out over getting the right bits of kit here at the right time. This is an ongoing problem of living out here, is making sure you've got the right bits at the right time, because you haven't got the chance of nipping in a van down to the DIY shop to pick up the bit you need.
What's he like with the cows, Tim?
Sam's learning quite quickly, yeah. We still have the odd moment where the cows take charge, but we're getting, he's learning quite rapidly now. Yeah, I have great confidence that before long he's going to be able to let me go on holiday.
Oh, that's praise indeed, Sam.
Not easily earned, eh?
Back at Father Guy's, Heike has completely fallen for the charms of the chaplaincy.
Oh, I think it's so nice. Oh, huge!
It is huge.
And this thing, I've seen it in English households quite a lot. It's called, what's it called?
Arga.
An Arga, genau. Excellent. I really want to be the vicar.
I don't know if Guy would be very good as the vet. Yes.
Oh, come on, you get used to it.
You've got an allergy for smaller animals.
Yeah, that's right.
With the big ceremony to install him as the new chaplain to the Isles now only days away, Guy's worries about being able to cope with such an unusual post are growing by the minute. He hasn't slept properly for days.
When is it?
Thursday.
Oh, gosh.
Thursday. 11:30.
And then you're officially allowed to...
And I will...
Da-da-da-da.
I have to.
You have to then.
I have to get on with it then.
Okay.
Part of me would like this big occasion to happen and I can get on with it, as it were. Part of me would like to delay it a couple of weeks so we can carry on here and sort things out. We're hoping off-islanders come across.
Depends on the weather.
On the weather.
If the weather's bad, then nobody will.
It'll be just us lot.
Just very select few.
On the quay of the main island, St Mary's, some of the vital timber-framed sections Sam Hicks urgently needs for the new cottage have managed to get through on the overnight cargo boat. But the wind's rapidly getting up. Do they try to get them over to St Agnes now, before things get worse, or wait? Any delay could last for days. They decide to go for it. Over on St Agnes, Sam and Tim have pulled in island men and tractors to help haul the stuff back up to the farm. They've also been busy measuring. The first part of the journey is extremely uncomfortable, but successful. They just make it before the swell really gets up. With enough timber for them to start work, the next problem is physically dragging the cargo along the tiny tracks and across the island. The convoy sets off successfully. "120 miles away on the mainland, in Plymouth. And WPC Nikki Green has been back on routine duties here for the last few months. She spent the summer on Scilly, seconded to the island's tiny police force, and fell in love with the place. Since then, it's been the usual round of inner-city violence and drug and alcohol-related crime.
If he comes back in again, give us another shout. A male's been assaulted over at the outside the pub over the other side of the water there. Where there's a unit dealing. You see the van. He's got a head wound. He's been assaulted by someone else, and the ambulance are just dealing with him now, just sorting out the injury. I don't know quite what's happening there.
But ever since she's been back in Plymouth, Nikki has been longing to return to Scilly. And now, at last, WPC Nikki Green is back. But this time, she's off duty. Nikki's returned at the very end of the year to catch up with friends, young and old, at the biggest party in the island's calendar, New Year's Eve.
Welcome home. Terrible condition.
I know. I was a bit sort of apprehensive, but it wasn't too bad. So.
There's quite a party out here.
I hope so. Yeah. So.
Fancy dress.
Yes.
What have you brought with you?
Have to wait and see, won't you?
Have to wait and see.
Unbeknown to her Plymouth colleagues, Nikki has been making inquiries about the possibility of returning to Scilly as next summer's relief police posting. It's unusual for the same Bobby to be able to come over 2 years running. Over on St Agnes, the one thing Sam Hicks dreaded actually happens. En route to the farm, the cargo of timber frames gets stuck between two ancient dry stone walls.
The walls won't fit up through the lane.
It's right up against the thing rubbing on it.
Eventually, with a bit of careful shifting of the odd stone and a lot of patience, the convoy gets rolling again. Despite the awful weather and against all the odds, every wooden section arrives safely on the farm without even a scratch.
What do you think, Tim?
Nerve-wracking. Trying to squeeze it through the narrow gaps and under the trees. But we had confidence we'd done measuring and understood that it would.